8.5 years old, I got literally, when I say deathly sick, I mean deathly sick. Laying there and I'm in great pain. And then all of a sudden, the body was quiet. There was no more aches, pains. There was no more breath, no heartbeat, no pulse. I feel a lightness in my body. I also feel hugged. I feel loved. Imagine if you're in a womb of a mother that really wanted you to be born, that warmth and comfort, except it's not dark, it's slow light, being rebirthed into another place. Normally you talk to people and they'll say, well, then I had a past review of my life and saw the things I was doing right, wrong. I don't get a review of what I've done. I get a forward look at what awaits me. The mumps was like the starter of problems. If you didn't treat mumps, it progressed from that to strep throat to lung infections to kidneys. It would just cascade through your whole body. By the time I was finally taken to the doctors, the doctor told my parents, my stepdad and my mom, it looks like it's too late. And I'm hearing this. I'm strapped on a gurney, right? And that's probably too late. I'm in earshot. Hey, I can hear this, right? So I was taken into isolation because it's contagious. And then they worked on my lungs that very night. About an hour later, they stuck these big, huge needles in my back. They cleared some fluid from my lungs so I could breathe a little. But I was really weak, and I wasn't doing well at all. And they got through. Nobody held my hand. Nobody said, "Are you okay, kid?" 8.5 years old. I mean, all alone. And they just put me in a bed, turned the lights off, and left me. And I'm alone in the dark, away from home for the first time in my life, laying there, and I'm in great pain. And then all of a sudden, quiet. The body was quiet. There was no more aches, pains. I feel a lightness in my body, meaning like I'm a feather. I'm just like floating up, and I'm just drifting. I'm ascending. And I also feel hugged. I feel loved. It's beyond words. You know that source of love is you. It's the divine, and it's all one. And you become that love. And the room starts to get lighter, lighter, lighter. And it was kind of like clouds. It's like you're flying in an airplane and you fly through a bunch of clouds. You look out there and they're all around the airplane. It was just like that. It was like clouds. And then I sense, because I don't have a body to physically look down, I realized that I was whatever this consciousness was. I'm still thinking, if that's the right word. I'm still knowing and being without a body. And so I when I say look down, look, quote unquote, I see the body, my child's body below me. And it's, just sitting there all with nothing, terrible looking. And my thought was, even at 8.5 years old, my thought was, thank God that's not me. That's not me. I am this thought, this consciousness. Even at 8.5, I'm going, no, I am this. I am this love. Normally you talk to people and they'll say, well, then I had a past review of my life and saw the things I was doing right and wrong, and shown options and how I hurt people and help people. Well, at 8.5 was to review, not much. So I don't get a review of what I've done. I get a forward look at what awaits me. Now, how long this was going on in actual Earth time, I have no idea. when I was going to review, it felt like forever. Because I'm watching these things. I'm watching myself in high school. I'm watching myself meet my future wife. I saw Kennedy, President Kennedy, getting assassinated. I had no idea who he was, but I saw it happen. The only difference in my view of that I saw, more than one shooter, was more than just Oswald. Anyway, so I saw that happen, and I saw all these things happen. I saw myself behind a machine gun, in Vietnam in a helicopter, looking at the view and people shooting at me and everything. I saw people blowing up and people getting killed and stuff happening. And I saw my children, and I saw where I was going to live, saw the jobs I had. I saw all this stuff going forward, as it turns out, 50 years. And while this was going on, there was also two numbers. 29 was floating around in the cloud. 29, then the 2 would flip over and go backwards. And if you take a 2 and you make it backwards, it looks like a 5. So it's like 5. So it was 29, 59, 29, 59. I had no idea what that meant. So I kind of saw it to me going to India eventually. And then this thing kind of fades away. I'm on a trip to India when it ends. When I woke up, I was still deathly sick. Not dead, but sick and left feet. And I spent the next 1 year of my life, 1 year, on bed rest, wasn't allowed to get out of bed, couldn't get up and go to the toilet, couldn't get up and go to the shower, couldn't walk around, had to stay in bed, everything had to be, fed, bathed, and dead. And if a year doesn't sound like a long time, picture a year of your life. No school, no television, no smartphones, no dumb phones that are connected landlines, nothing. I look back upon that as a true blessing. People look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. I said, no. At 8.5 years old, I became basically a monk. No distractions, nothing but time for me and my thoughts, or lack of thoughts, if I could get to that state of being. And that's why I started making up all these meditation techniques. I started doing things with energy and energizing the body, and bringing energy in through the spine and recharging my quote unquote my batteries. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was doing things I thought were healthy. Before I went to the hospital, believe it or not, at 8, I actually read a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And in that book, written in 1946, it's still out there, it's still a bestseller. He talks about Babaji's cave. There's a chapter that says Babaji's cave. Babaji's this great avatar. I didn't even know what an avatar was. He reintroduces this ancient technique of meditation called Kriya Yoga. And he reintroduces this to his disciple in this cave. And it was an interesting story. It goes on and on and on about all this stuff. While I'm laying there for that year, I kept thinking, I'm going to go to Babaji's cave. But it was always back in mind, that's what I want to do. So when I got out of the hospital at 9.5 years old, my dog got run over by a car in front of our house. 40 miles an hour, it smacks this little poodle. And I go out there, and the driver that hit it's all teary-eyed. The guy was upset. He thought he killed my dog. And the dog was flattened. It was just whimpering. I mean, it was a daughter. But I remember while I was laying in that hospital for a year, I had learned or taught myself how to gather energy. Visualizing, using different techniques of getting this energy in my body. And I thought, don't ask me why, but at 9.5, I'm thinking, well, if I take this energy from the divine, from the source, and I give love and process that energy through my hands, I can help my dog. That's what I thought. Why I thought that, I have no idea. Picked up the dog, took it to the hospital in my lap, and when I touched the dog, and I did this technique, which I go around the world teaching. And I visualized the energy going through the top of my head and coming down my hands. It was like the dog got electrocuted. It was like, and the dog got up, ran around the house, and lived the rest of his life. Never went to the vet. So, end of story. It was like, I thought, wow, because it was the power of giving child love without question, knowing that there's this divine energy without question, without saying, I wonder if this will work. It was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. Whoa. And that was my first experience with healing somebody outside of myself. So I go into high school, remember I had all those visions. It's 3 weeks before the Kennedy assassination. I know the Kennedy assassination is coming, 1963, and I know he's going to go to Texas. And I know in Dallas he's going to get killed. So it was like, I go to my principal, hey, president's going to get killed in Dallas. Calm down, Bill. It's okay. He's got a Secret Service. He's okay. I said, no, he's really going to get killed. Anyway, then he really gets killed, and then people go, how the hell did Bill know? Well, Bill saw it, you know. So then I went to Vietnam, and I know who was going to get shot, who was going to get wounded, who was going to get killed, what helicopters were going to crash, what events were going to unfold. I mean, when you're close to life or death like that every day, your cosmic awareness, your mystical handle on the universe is about the best and strongest it's ever going to be, because you're so close to the veil of death and life. It's just, there's no filters anymore. It's there, you act on it. It saved my life, and I tried to save others. Long stories on that. But, so yeah, it was kind of like a long 5 decades of deja vu. I kept remembering the fact that I wanted to go to India, and I wanted to go to Babaji's cave. So I was 58 and a half, 50 years later, right? And I didn't put the numbers together in my mind to realize as far as the future I saw. That's the end of the rainbow, man. What does that mean, right? I didn't start thinking that until I got there. So I end up in India, and I'm there for several months. And I'm going from ashram and temple and cave with yogis to the Ganges on boat rides, and hiking in the Himalayas, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And still looking for those answers. Found this place where Babaji's cave was at, and we went, me and my friend, and we went to the cave and had a wonderful mystical experience there. On the way back, I'm having a full-blown heart attack. It felt like I had a couple of hands with long fingernails reaching inside my chest, and were taking my heart, were sticking their nails in me and kind of twisting around, beating it. It was like, holy cow, man, there's something really wrong with my heart. And so we got lost, and I'm standing on the cliff. It's about a 30-foot drop down to a ravine. And all of a sudden, I'm standing there, and I totally pass out. Well, it's just like it exploded. And I tumbled down. The good news is it wasn't a straight cliff. It went down about 10 feet, 12 feet. There was a little couple-foot ledge. And then dropped down and 8 feet or so, and then it'd be another 1 foot or so. Just a couple little outcroppings. So I'd fall, hit the next one, fall, hit it, and land on a boulder. And I'm laying all twisted on this big boulder, this big rock at the bottom. Staring up at the skies, my eyes are open, but I'm not there. It's like I hit the rock, I'm not there. My body's all twisted, weird shape. And the pain is gone. I know there's no more breath. I know there's no more pulse. There's no heartbeat. Life has ceased. And I'm going, I I've been there before. I'm looking up and I see the clouds above me, right? I'm heading towards the clouds. I look straight out and look. I don't have a body to look from. I don't have eyes to look from. But in this consciousness, I observed my friend standing on the cliff looking down at my body, and I thought, hey, I'm here. And of course, they could hear me, right? Hey, that's not me down there. That's not me. Trust me. I've been done this before, and it's not me. And so I'm just feeling hugged once again. Like I'm in this womb of love. Imagine if you were in a womb of a mother that really wanted you to be born, that warmth and comfort, except it's not dark, it's slow light, right? Kind of a womb of light, being rebirthed into another place. To get poetic there for a minute. But it's, I'm looking down, and all of a sudden I see this very large cobra snake. And when I say large, I mean large. I couldn't see, it came out of grass, and its tail, the rest of the lives of the grass, it went across my ankles and feet and calves, and it was crawling across me. And I had such love towards that snake. It was like, wow, that's love. I love that snake. Why I love that snake? I don't know. I love that snake so much that it was like the snake became paddles, like, from the fireman, right? Clear, jump, like jump start my heart. And it was like, boom. It's like I got a jump start. I take a breath and I jump up and I find myself standing up, and the cobra kind of rolls off my legs onto my shoes. And I'm just in love with it. I'm looking at a wild cobra, and I'm reaching down trying to grab it. And it's slithering through my hands. I'm grabbing it, and I described it in several other videos where I talk about it. I got my hands like this, and I can't touch my fingers or the thumb. I mean, that's around the snake, but that snake in between. The body was that big, and it kept sliding and sliding. It never stopped to bite me or to get mad. It just kept sliding through my hands, sliding through me. I chased it through this tall grass, about 2 or 3 feet tall, and I'm grabbing in the grass, and I know where its head's at, and I chase it, and it ends up behind this trickling waterfall. It wasn't much of a waterfall. It was probably 8 or 9 feet tall. It crawled up behind the waterfall. There was a little cave, and it curled this little body up, and then it brings its head up with that tongue going, and those fangs hanging out, right? 4 fangs, right? And it's just looking at me. I'm standing right next to the water, like the water's right here, not just right outside the water. And we have this staring contest, me and the snake. And there was so much love. So much love. It was like the universe again was still hugging me through this snake. It was just a beautiful experience. So finally we got lost. Anyway, we finally made it back. So most guys at that point would say, I just survived a heart attack on a cliff. I had a fall. I probably should go to the doctor. Right. Maybe the next day or 2 or a week or 3 or a month or 2 or 3. I finish up my trip. I'm there another couple of months. And then I decide to come home and I don't go in December. I don't go in January. February rolls around. And now I'm just a few weeks away from my 59th birthday. And I get this major heart attack. And I collapse on my floor of my garage. And I come in the house, tell my wife, I'm not feeling too good. I'm just going to drive over to the hospital and get myself checked out. So I finally get see the doctor, and he wants to do surgery. He wants to do this and that. You got 100% blockage here. You got, all this crazy stuff. And I don't, totally out of character. I complained. Because I never complain. Whatever it is supposed to be. It's all right. But I said, this is kind of crazy. I said, but I spent the last 50 years of my life not eating red meat, no booze, no alcohol, no marijuana, no drugs, no acid, no LSD, no wild mushrooms, none of that crazy stuff, liquor, cigarettes, nothing. I didn't put sugar in anything, right? And I said, I am having a heart attack, you know? And the doctor picks up my chart and he goes, well, Mr. McDowell, he says, I'm looking at your charts here, and all your numbers, he says. I would have bet you've been dead by 29 with the way your background is. You're almost going to be 59 in a couple of weeks. So 29, 59. Remember the first story? 29, 59. So the real thing was, in my mind, had I not listened to the vision forward, like maybe I should take care of my health, I would have been dead at 29. And now I'm looking at 59 and I'm going, what does that mean? I'm going to be dead at 59. I'll make a long story short, a spoiler alert. I didn't die at 59. I'm still here. And I went on to have a third near-death experience. So the first two near-death experiences turned out to be 50 years apart. It looked, in all practical purposes, as the same exact day 50 years later. And this happened in daytime in India, and 50 years before it happened in nighttime in California. So it's possible, it was 12 hours difference or so. So it was possible that maybe it's even down to the hour. But it was like, you had 50 years, here's another possible exit point. But I didn't take it. I still had things I had to do. I had a mission. I knew I had things that I was supposed to say, do, people I was supposed to help, and all that kind of things. So that's the first two near-death experiences. Not your normal, but after you interview a bunch of people, you're going to say, well, what's Bill talking about? There is no normal. Everybody's is different, right? They're all unique, right? But there's certain similarities. The similarities are, everybody talks about this overwhelming, indescribable love. Everybody talks about coming back and you feel like, well, there's a purpose. I'm back here. Why? To each person is different. But it usually has something to do with love and service. So people spend the rest of their lives seeking that feeling of love, and they're never going to find it in the human realm. The closest they're going to get is in meditation, prayer, and service. You don't have to have a near-death experience to have a spiritual experience. You don't have to go through pain. You don't have to go practically die. I mean, through meditation, you can alter states and where you're at and what you're feeling and thinking. You can transcend the body. You can do all kinds of things in meditation. And you can have that same uplifting, loving embrace, but in your search of the divine, that's how you experience it. In the search, it's a byproduct. You feel the love. It's a restless mind. And that's why the meditation is to tame the mind. So you don't meditate because I already have a tamed mind, I can do this. And if I have a restless mind, I can't do this, well, then therefore I don't do it. No, the idea is you do it because you have a restless mind, and then it tames the mind. So meditation, there's thousands of people teaching it out there, and there's thousands or millions of methods. It's not the tool that the carpenter uses to build a house. A good carpenter can use cheap tools to build a nice house. Same thing with meditation. It's not the ultimate meditation technique. It's always the meditator, meaning the intentions and the focus of the meditator. In other words, there's a person going into this to love God or to find an experience. Most people go in, they're looking for a spiritual experience. In meditation, once you reach a point, you realize, I'm in love with God. If I get nothing out of this experience, self-realization, enlightenment. That doesn't matter. I just want to love God. So when you get to that point, everything just opens up. It's it's there. You'll find what you're looking for. But as long as you're seeking something, you keep yourself separate from whatever you're seeking. Seeking God. Well, where's God? Well, I'm praying to God. Where's God? You got to pray to Him. That means you're someplace else. Everything's here. Kingdom of God is within. This is the center of the universe. There's nothing outside of you. There's nothing outside of God. God is the source. And to me, it's love. If you want to call God Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, it doesn't matter. Whatever you focus on, if that brings harmony to your heart, it brings you closer to your divine experience, great, go for it. Whatever path you take is okay, as long as it's a path of love.
Cold itself was a creeping enemy of death stalking us. With every step we took, our energy level decreased. As the cold increased, we knew that we were going to die. All night long it got colder and colder and colder, and our hypothermia got deeper and deeper and deeper. I had tunnel vision, and this tunnel vision collapsed rapidly. This blackness out here, and I could see in this very narrow space, and as it collapsed, I thought to myself, I must be falling asleep. But I didn't. I awoke. At the time of my first near-death experience, I was a backslidden Christian, charismatic, Orthodox, Roman Catholic, acid-dropping, pot-smoking hippie. And I was traveling away from my family because of something that had happened in my family life. My state of mind was outdoorsy, adventurous. When springtime came along, I didn't want to go back to see my family, so I looked for high adventure, and I found one. A fellow was going up to Alberta in British Columbia to go on a 10-day ice climbing, snow caving, backcountry skiing expedition, and he needed a partner. I'd never ice climbed before, but I'd been backpacking and mountaineering, and I was good on rocks, and I'd spent my childhood in Boy Scouts winter camping, and I was a good backcountry skier. So it was all very well planned and well thought through, except for one problem. And the problem was that I couldn't come up with two ice axes. I could only come up with an axe, single axe, and a hammer. And the hammer is significantly shorter than the axe, which meant my swing on the hammer side was shorter. Those two things combined forced our climb to be significantly slower than all of the other teams on the ice that day. So by the time we reached the top of the climb, the sun was setting, and we already knew that we were in a deadly situation. The temperature dropped about 30 degrees instantaneously as the sun went down, and all the other climbing teams had left. We knew that we were going to die. We had a discussion about it as hypothermia set in. We decided that we would die for sure if we stayed where we were, and maybe we could survive if we fought our way down. So we decided to fight our way down. But all night long it got colder and colder and colder, and our hypothermia got deeper and deeper and deeper, and our symptoms became more exacerbated with every step. And I was terrified. The cold itself was a creeping enemy of death stalking us. With every step we took, our energy level decreased as the cold increased. In the end, I was standing looking at the mountain, having just woken up from sleep, because hypothermia puts you to sleep. And I kept falling asleep and standing back up again, and I stood up this last time, and I had tunnel vision, and this tunnel vision collapsed rapidly. This blackness out here, and I could see in this very narrow space, and as it collapsed, I thought to myself, I must be falling asleep. But I didn't. I awoke. I was confused. I felt like I was inside a darkness, but in front of me was a deeper darkness, and I had form and shape. I still was myself, but I was not in my body. I could perceive this darkness because it had a certain level of illumination, and way far in the distance was a single pinprick of light appeared, and this like a star, like a single star in the night sky, and like the North Star, and that's all you can see. And it rushed toward me, and it filled my vision and communicated with me that I'm taking you. I put up my willpower saying, no, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not going anywhere. And it just took me, and it severed me from the world. It severed me from my body. I became no longer a human being. I had a shape and form similar, but I wasn't made of molecules. I was made of, metaphorically, I was made of photons. I was a being of light with a form inside this consciousness that was far more powerful than me, speaking its own intelligence, showing me its infinite intelligence, showing me infinite comfort, giving me comfort. And it took me back up its trajectory, and I was bilocated. I had a point of view outside of my light body. I was like an individuated eye of God seeing this happen. I knew myself as myself, and I understood that my just previous life was not me at all, and never had been me, that this had always been me. And I could see in all of this vastness, and I was unafraid. I was healed of all my pain. All my pain had vanished. I was whole and well and alive in a way, in a reality that's far greater than here. There was a waterfall of light emerged from the darkness, the deep, impenetrable darkness. And it emerged from it, and it was gigantic. And it was the most desirable experience I'd ever had. I wanted this luscious, lovely, beautiful, desirous, seductive. I just wanted it, and so with a thought, I moved toward it. And as I thought, it moved toward me. And then I was with it, and I wanted it so much, I touched it with my being, and as I touched it, I opened, and it flowed inside of me and enveloped me, and I entered it, and I could see that I could see the darkness beyond it, the darkness beyond the light, and then it became a person to me. Like it knew me, it looked in me, it saw the whole of me. It showed me all of my entire life. There was no corner of me that was hidden. There was nothing that I had stuffed away from myself that I couldn't see. And I went through a hell of the bad things that I had done to people through my whole life, because everything was visible. And I could see this eye of fire looking at me and showing me my life. And it did so without judgment. It was, as it showed me myself, it was speaking without language. It was speaking love to me. It was love. I love you. I've always known you. I accept you as I make you. And as I went through this life review of hell, I experienced all the pain that I gave to other people from their point of view, not just from what I would think about how you feel, but how you actually felt and your actual thoughts. I was that person and myself simultaneously in every circumstance, experiencing from 2 points of view, my original one and theirs, in this long chronology of all the pain that I had caused in my life. And as I experienced this love that was being given to me, I had this moment of judgment, but I was not being judged. I was only being loved. The judgment was my lower self seeing the comparison to the highest self. And I could see not only my own life, I could see all of humanity's brokenness, and not just humanity's brokenness, but it was in the context of the entire universe, the physics and the biology and the chemistry of us that functions, that nothing exists here without consuming another. Everything consumes something else here. And my humanness wasn't my fault. And nobody's humanness is their fault. It's part of this much larger system. And I saw and I experienced myself as metaphorically, an individual photon And I was this one singular photon superpositioned with this field of this infinite, this googolplex field of photons that was the mass of the mind of the divine consciousness. All of these portions, all in superpositioned with each other, all one being, yet somehow also individuated. And I was one of those individuations, but I was outside of this field. And I could see below me this long tail of my soul. I could see my original self emerging from the deep darkness in a form, and then I lasted a long time, and then I began to incarnate. I could see all these like little worlds hanging off like grapes, like individual grapes, and the grape is my life there, and it's a world, this world or others, I don't know, and there's a chronology to it. And I saw that my soul was myself. I saw that my photon was my highest self, and I saw that the lives that I had lived were a part of me, but not me. I am this much higher, a union, being of union. And as I looked, I had I was like, oh, look at those lives. And the voice says, wanna see? And I'm like, yeah. So I get zoomed down into one of these little grapes, this world. And in this world, I'm inside another body that I now have full control over. I take over this body, and I'm walking down a road, and I've got sandals on my feet, and they're covered with dust, and I can see the hem of my robe and my hairy calves, and I can hear this conversation going on, and there's like low houses made of adobe, sort of mud-covered white one-story, and there are people on this road, and it's pretty wide. I'm in a group of folks, and they're all men, I think. I can hear them talking. And they asked me a question, and I turned to look at them, and as soon as they asked me a question, and I'm about to speak, I'm out. And I was like, am I dead? And the voice says, yes, you're dead. And I say, well, what about this, my mom and my dad? And the voice swept me across this universe of this heaven, this belly of God, and took me through this like a permeable membrane. And out of this deeper darkness, that this light is flowing, weaving our universe, all of these other universes keep popping out, one after the other, after the other, after the other. I'm still in the one I'm in, but they're like layers going up, and there's this vastness to all of this. And in this vastness, it says to me, I'm the most of me that's still inside the belly of the divine, and my little tiny consciousness that's sticking out into the universe. It says to me that all that I am, all that you see, all the universes, all that I am, all this love, all this light, I love you with. This I can't describe to you the size of unconditional love. It's eternal and infinite. It was all aimed at me. I felt like I was the particular most beloved, and that all of this was aimed at me. And it wasn't just that this collection of love, it's that also everything was beloved. And it zoomed my view down to our solar system, and I could see our Earth, and our Earth is like a hologram. And this hologram, I can see all like 7 billion people living on side of it. And it is nighttime and there's daytime, and I can see what they're doing. They're living their lives as, terrible. People are doing terrible things. They're doing beautiful things. They're doing boring things. They're working, but I can see inside every one of them. And inside every one of them, this same light that was pouring out of the deeper darkness is a speck of gold illumination inside the chest of every single person that I can see. No exceptions. No matter whether you're doing good things or you're murdering, it made no difference. It was inside of every single one. And the whole earth was covered with this huge fog. And nobody could see this, but I could see this. They couldn't see it in each other. As I looked at Earth and saw all the golden specks inside of everyone, the faces of the lives, the personhood of my parents appeared. They popped up in two sets, Mom A and B, Mom and Dad A, and Mom and Dad B, and they were these parallel lives I could see their lives. I could see all of the time of their lives to live with or without me. And in the with lifetime that they could live, they had a level of pain that I've lived with now for the last 40 years with them. The loss of my sister and the brokenness of my mother and all of the pain that's ongoing with that. And life B without me, there was shattering and destruction. But the end of their lives were the same. And the voice said to me, in the way that I love you now, I have always loved you and everyone. And all because of my love, everything unfolds back into me. Nothing is separate from me. And because of my love that unfolds all back, your parents are going to be fine if you just wait for them to die. If you stay here, come and stay with me, it was saying to me. But you have a choice. Their deaths were the same. They became like me. And they knew like me, most beloved. And everybody was most beloved. That's the thing about the golden light. I wasn't particular. It felt particular. But everyone is utterly and absolutely, completely beloved. And so, knowing that the length of my life had just been a wink of my eye, because I had just felt like I had been born and just died like that, I said to myself, well, I can go back. It won't be that long. And I said to the divine, if I go back, can I come back here? If I can go back and prevent this great amount of suffering for my parents, minimalize it really, can I come back here to this bliss, this self-understanding, this union? And the voice said, yeah, you come back here. But, welcome. And the door opened, and down this tunnel I went. And inside of this tunnel were all these other doorways or portals. And they all opened up to all these other tunnels. All of them were potentialities of my life. All of them. But this particular one was like the mainstream of it. But I could make all these choices to go in all these other directions. And I get to the end of this mainstream of it, and by the time I'm at the bottom of it, and it felt like the bottom of it, I had been compressed down into this dense form similar to the dark shade that I was when I was first leaving my body. It's kind of this sort of light, but not light, like a dark light. I don't know how to describe that. And I could see on the cliff, I could see this image. And there was like, I could see this guy hanging there and this other person shaking him. And I could see the stars and the darkness and the cliff and the rope. But I didn't know who they were. As like, I didn't identify, oh, there's Peter and Tim. I was like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. And then it was like a sword piercing. And I'm the sword, and I become like this sword, and I pierce this guy's chest, and I'm in this chest, and it opens, and I'm stuffed inside, and I can see out of this little eye-like shape, like this slit that's open, and I can see this angelic being, and I can see back to the darkness, and then it just closes, and as it closes, I have fully aware of that I am a soul. And I am entombed in this thing that isn't me. And I'm trapped inside of this thing, but there's no pain. I'm just trapped. And it's kind of dark in there. And then I feel my brain, or the brain of this body, wind up like an old radio tube in the 1920s. You turn on the radio and it's got all this electricity is going to light up the tubes, and I felt this thing kind of warm up, and as it warmed up, I began to feel pain and suffering. Everything hurt. Feeling came back pretty immediately, and I can hear this noise, and it resolves into a voice, and my language facility comes back. I can hear, don't die, don't die, don't die. I open my eyes. There's Tim shaking me. I don't know who he is at this point. I don't even know who I am. It's shaking me. Don't die. You were dead. You were dead. And he's screaming and crying, and he hauls me up. And I don't know who or what I am. I'm inhabiting this thing. I'm like looking at this like, what is this? Where am I? What am I inside of this world that's full of pain? And at one, Tim was talking and talking and talking. I don't know what he was saying. and and then he got me to pull the rope, and the rope came free, and we descended. And because the lower Weeping Wall is on the Icefields Parkway, our car was parked across the street in the parking lot. We got our tent, and we self-treated for hypothermia, and I became an entirely different person from that moment on. All my beliefs were erased. It wasn't like they became another belief, like no belief. And it wasn't just about religion, it was about politics and economics and social interactions. Anything that the human beings had invented in their heads. Like coming back from a foreign trip and you go through culture shock when you get here, like that on steroids, because I didn't believe anything anymore. I didn't even believe in language. So immediately I found that the only place that was real with a capital R was in here. Yeah, so my first near death experience eliminated all fear of death. And it might, if I'm nearly in a car wreck, I still get adrenaline rushes. My body still has those responses, but I'm not afraid of dying at all. I try to maintain the space of peace and openness inside myself, connectivity to the divine, because when I found that I couldn't integrate into the world, it's still a freaking alien place to me. But I found that the more I integrated interiorly, the more I self-identified as with my higher self that came back with me anyway. The more I step into that, I live into that, the easier it is for me to integrate into the world. I try to do good things in the world. I try to be kind, and I try to empty myself, and I have fun. I really, one of the things I decided when I came back was, if I'm going to be stuck in this body, I'm going to enjoy it as much as I possibly can. And so I do that. I have as much fun as I possibly can in lots of different ways. We need to talk about what might nudge humanity toward a deeper understanding for the first time in the history of hominids. We've kind of messed it up with our tribal natures. We've done a lot of good things. I want people to bring it into the public square, because there's this part of ourselves that is truly higher, that is truly original, that is truly made of love. And if enough of us can have the courage to speak to someone else about it, or to talk publicly about it, or just to live it fully in the public life, then maybe we have an opportunity to choose a new path for all of us.
And finally, I felt this warmth out of the clear blue. And wow, I look up and there's this huge light over my head, and my fear had gone instantly. I'm expanding, and galaxies and planets are going inside me, and I had no awareness of me anymore. Just pure sensation, and it was beautiful. If you look at every atom, every molecule, every lifetime, you, me, the whole planet, the whole universe, it's nothing more than infinite mind seeing itself. You don't have to have an NDE to connect with infinite mind. They're all different, but the one common theme is infinite love. Well, I was raised Catholic. I'm the third of 7 sons. Got 2 older brothers, 4 younger brothers. Had great parents. Got in college, met several people who were pretty psychically and spiritually evolved. A lady did a horoscope for me and pretty well nailed me. I didn't know at the time, but she said, you got a lot of psychic ability, and you're probably using this the rest of your life. And I thought, well, and I started giving readings with regular playing cards. I knew several psychics. I'd got some readings from some. And when I moved to Austin, two different psychics both said, you got a lot of psychic ability. And I kind of felt it when I was a kid growing up with a bunch of brothers. Because I'm a Scorpio, my mom's a Cancer, everybody else is fire and air, real masculine signs. And I could always kind of feel things were going to screw up. And I thought, isn't it just common sense? Can't other people see that? And the answer is obviously no. Anyway, in 1977, sort of out of the clear blue, toward the end of January, I started feeling these strange feelings, like I could see what was going to happen next. First with my roommates, and the next day walking to the store, I could pick up people's thoughts. Later that night, I went to a bar, and as we walked in the bar, my roommate and I, there was a particular spot I felt this sort of premonition about something, didn't know what. Later at the bar, it was too noisy in the band room. I walked back into the front area, sat at the bar, and then all of a sudden, I thought about walking outside, getting some air, and all of a sudden, I'm out in that spot where when I walked in, and I saw people walk right through me, and I opened my eyes, and I'm still in the bar stool. The door opened, and they walked through, and they were dressed exactly as I'd just seen. I went, I can't believe this. Can I do this again? And I started transporting myself outside, seeing people. My roommate came in, I showed him this, it blew him away, blew me away. By the second, third day, this psychic ability had gone so intense that it was no longer like real normal life at all. But the wall that normally separates our conscious mind from our subconscious, mine just kind of dissipated. We're supposed to have that wall there so we can deal with our normal lives in a normal level. And it dissipated, and I started seeing everything from a parallel universe, subconscious, spiritual, psychic. After about a couple of days, I started feeling these monitors, these guides. Something was watching me. Something knew more about what was happening than I did, because I had no idea on one level of why or where this ends or how do I turn it off. Okay, I got the picture. I know what's happening to some degree. But I kept feeling these sort of guides watching me, and that's sort of the only comfort I got. Not the only, but that definitely gave me comfort. Anyway, at the end of a solid week of this intense, could not turn it off psychic ability, I was terrified. The terror had taken over the ecstasy, the enlightenment. And so I was racing down Guadalupe Street, crying and screaming and praying. And Guadalupe Street here in Austin, a bunch of people were watching me. I didn't care, you know. And finally, I felt this warmth out of the clear blue. And wow, what the? I look up and there's this huge light over my head, and my fear had gone instantly. In fact, it felt warm, spiritually, mentally, down my body. I looked around and looked at this whole circle of people who gathered around me because they didn't know what the hell I was doing. And they didn't notice it. They didn't react. They were just staring at me like, you okay, buddy? And then I saw this, like a crystal table about this thick. And that's where the light was coming. And it was coming through the palms of the hands of these 7 white-robed. I couldn't see their faces. It was kind of like gray because their faces didn't matter. It was their presence. And they said, do you trust us? And I said, wow, you're the monitors. And they said, yes, do you trust us? And I said, man, I'm so glad you got, I don't understand what's that. Shh, do you trust us? They asked that a couple times. I finally said, absolutely. Long story short, within 2 seconds, I was hit head on by a speeding car. I was outside the car, saw my own body getting toppled over. Then the whole city of Austin turned into a little dot, and then the whole earth did. And I saw the whole earth from 360 degrees because I was expanding outward in all directions. So anyway, I'm expanding, and galaxies and planets are going inside me, and I had no awareness of me anymore. Just pure sensation, and it was beautiful. It's the most beautiful feeling of going on a beautiful protected joyride. And planets and galaxies. And then all of a sudden I got to what I felt like was the edge of the universe. And it seemed to be 2 things. One, it seemed to be just a figment of the imagination. Whose, what, I don't know. But was it really physical? Or is it a concept that we're living in? Then I felt this realm of consciousness I described as the colors, because they seemed to be colorful. And that was a level of consciousness that when we come in to the body at birth, and that allows us, when we become human, to use our senses and our brain to be able to understand who we are and where we came from. And then I'm all of a sudden outside the universe, and it looked like there's billions of universes, like a whole sky. And I came out of that one, but wow, there's infinite and they seem to kind of roll up the whole infinite universes into a big tunnel of light. It was fearless and it was beautiful. And I'm all of a sudden go through this tunnel of light and end up in infinite mind. Now, infinite mind allows for every possibility over time of everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, both the universes, infinite creativity, no limit whatsoever, number one. Number two, no bias. No bias. It's infinite creativity. Number three, or maybe this could be number one, if it didn't exist, nothing would exist. And because it does exist, everything exists. There's no in between. Now you and I, we're living in a particular universe, right? But think of it this way. If you go to the store tomorrow and you go a right turn instead of a left turn, you have helped co-create a universe that's different from the one if you went left, right? They're not the same. Every thought, every molecule is always in motion. What we see is a pretty seamless, but there's multi-universes randomly intertwining, and the beauty and the mystery of that is incomprehensible from a lot of perspectives. I can only kind of describe it in the abstract to some degree. No matter what it is, it exists in some reality, in some universe, maybe not the universe we're in right now, but there's no limit. There's no limit to how much manifestation can happen, whether it goes from an atom to a molecule to a universe to you to me to black holes and start over. There's no limit. The interesting thing is also, if you look at every atom, every molecule, every lifetime, you, me, the whole planet, the whole universe, it's nothing more than infinite mind seeing itself, looking at itself. And I was immediately pulled away by a term I describe in my book, A Second Eternity here, the story about this experience. I describe it as spiritual gravity. Something was pulling me somewhere. I didn't mind being where I was, but I had no vote. I was just pulled out. I was pulled back through this tunnel of light. I was pulled back into this sky full of universes. I was pulled toward one particular one, which is mine, ours. Got in that, collapsed, felt the colors again, collapsed into time and space. Still no idea who I was, but a little bit apprehensive because where I was really nice. Now, where am I headed? What's going on? And then I saw the earth and I started heading this way and I started thinking, I'm connected with this place somehow. And then I saw 3 series of pictures, which I described in my book. The first is what we're going through now, the transformation, the Aquarian age, the second coming, whatever you want to call it. It's a 100-year, 150-year transition from a high. We're at the peak right now. We're getting at the peak of seeing all this chaos and problems and holes in the boat and social problems. Then I saw pictures of the other side. What's coming after all this? And it was a beautiful world. It's a very different world. It's the age of Aquarius. We're working on different energies or different, now I don't know if there's going to be 1 million people left or 12 billion on the planet. I don't know. It's all in change, in flux, and every individual's free will affects the overall outcome to some degree, and everybody can make a right turn and make that universe happen or a left turn and make that. So, but what is written in stone is that we're going to that level of consciousness one way or another, because there's no other alternative. That's the next stage of human evolution. Then I saw pictures of me. I didn't know it was me. I saw this musician that was struggling and he's playing piano and he's touring in different places. And then I saw my body right on, and I thought, wow, that's me. And I jumped into my body. And I opened my eyes. There's a red-haired guy just hanging over me, screaming and hollering. And I opened my eyes, and there's red hairs all over my face. He, man, it's not to stop. I couldn't stop. He was red. I was terrified. I felt no pain. I was not hurt. I didn't get a scratch. In no time, a bunch of cops and ambulance and police and What's funny, they're all looking around for a bloody body in the street, and there ain't one. I'm up there talking to these people. They're going, he's the guy. I went, yep, I'm the one. How are you even standing? I said, I'm here with my feet like you, you know. How are you not hurt? I'm not sure what would have happened had I not had that experience, but I did. Now, this is 77 in February. For months and months and months, I kept wondering why I had this. I had to know that. I mean, would you guys just pick me at random? What the hell, you know? And 8 months later, 9 months later, I forgot exactly when because it just blew me away. Second most profound experience of my life ever. The first was what I just described, the voyage, and the week before it, and coming back and trying to figure it out. I kept asking my guides 8 months later. I didn't see him this time. I felt him. I'm out there playing my guitar, and once again, I'm wondering, why did I? And all of a sudden, I felt them. And it's like they were sitting somewhere in my front yard, and they shot this light into my head, and I heard their voices. And basically, what they said was, you had this experience because you always wanted to know. You're an altar boy, you're asking about God, you studied Psychic Billy, you read, you prying doors open, you're ready for the truth, you could handle the truth. We took you, took care of you, brought you back. Any problem with that? Thank you. It's all about attitudes, intentions, perspectives. That you can change. There's so much we can't change in life, but that's what we can change. If we change the way we look at a situation, we can deal with it differently. And it ain't the situation. It's how we look at it. Period. Fact. Now, I can't press a button and give anybody a trip there, but I can definitely encourage people to. You don't have to have an NDE to connect with the infinite mind. You simply don't. Not everybody's going to get one. And the irony is, most people who've had them, and I virtually say just about everybody because I've read a lot and talked to a lot of them, they're all different, but the one common theme is infinite love. I can't offer people a ride there, but everybody has a direct umbilical cord to that consciousness. And even if you don't get to go to the Eiffel Tower, you can go look at a picture of it. You can talk to people who've been there, and you can go, down to your park. It's your Eiffel Tower, Be at peace. Be creative. Ask questions. Be brave. Nothing in life has to be in vain unless we look at it as in vain. Everything can be a learning experience. Life's always trying to show us something, to teach us something. And it's always putting us in situations that help show us what we need to learn next. It's always tapping us on the shoulder. But we get to choose whether to pay attention and heed the call and benefit and grow and learn and evolve and get more magic, or to ignore it all.